Today we will be doing 9.2 day 2, which is using tests for congruent triangles. So if we will review on this first one, it says triangle UVW is similar to triangle XYZ. First of all, our similar symbol looks like that, and it wants us to find the length of XY. Well, we must remember that the ratios of the corresponding sides are congruent. So if I look here, UV is given to me as 3. Well, UV was listed the first and the second letter, so that matches up with the side XY. So UV over XY is equal to, if I look here, UW then is the next one given to me. And UW is the first and last variable, so the first and last one over here are XZ. Once I set up my ratio, I fill in any numbers that I know. So I know UV from the picture is 5. XY, I do not know, that's what I'm trying to find. So I'm going to leave that as a variable, and I'm going to use L for length. You could use any variable you like. UW is given to me as 3 inches, and over here XZ is given to me as 6 inches. Now that I have the proportion set up, I can go ahead and solve it by cross multiplication. So numerator times denominator, numerator times denominator. 3 times L is 3L, 5 times 6 is 30. The opposite of times 3 is to divide by 3, so I get that the length is equal to 10. So to answer the question, it said find the length of XY. The measure, which is a little m, of the length XY is equal to 10 inches. And that would be the proper way to write it. Okay, that's using proportions. Some of you might be able to do it this way. You could do it whatever way you need to. But just realize that not all numbers are simple like this, and you can just look and tell. I can look and see that this is 3 and the corresponding one is 6. That means that my scale factor is equal to 2. So if this side is 5, the corresponding side to that would be times the scale factor of 2, which would give me 10. So that works well if our scale factor is a nice whole number. But if it is not easy to see, you will need to set up the proportion like we did earlier. Okay, with that said, now we can do the following. It says use the test for congruent triangles. Two triangles are similar, and these are similar triangles. So up above we are talking about similar triangles, and down here we are as well. Two triangles are similar if they satisfy any of the 3 conditions. They have 2 pairs of corresponding angles are equal. All 3 pairs of corresponding side lengths have the same ratio, or 2 pairs of corresponding side lengths have the same ratio, and the included angle have the same measure. So down here I'm going to show you what each of those are talking about. So for number 1, it says 2 pairs of corresponding angles have equal measures. So that would be, for instance, me saying 2 pairs of corresponding angles. That A is congruent to A primed, and B is congruent to B primed. If let me mark those with 2 lines. There we go. If 2 corresponding angles are congruent, the triangles are said to be similar. That is instance number 1. Instance number 2 then says all 3 pairs of corresponding side lengths have the same ratio. That one's a little bit harder to understand. I'll set up the ratios. So we have AB over A prime, we should put that on top. A prime B prime over AB has to be equal to B prime C primed over BC is equal to A prime C primed over AC. So all these ratio lengths would be the same, which means that they have the same scale factor. So basically you're finding the scale factor. If they have one scale factor that's all the same, then the triangles are similar. The last thing then is if 2 pairs of corresponding lengths have the same ratio and the included angle. So let's say that we want to use angle C. We know that angle C is congruent to C primes. My two sides then that make that included would be B prime C prime, A prime C prime, because if I connect those, they meet at the vertex C. So that's C prime. That's the angle I'm talking about. Over here, my sides would be BC and AC. So I would have to know the following. I know that C, angle C, is congruent to angle C primed. And I would have to know that the ratio of the side lengths are also the same. So A prime C primed over AC is equal to B prime C primed over BC. So here you have to know one angle, that's the included angle, is congruent, and then the ratio of the sides then are congruent or equal. So if we put these into practice, it says identify whether the triangles are similar. We're going to use one of those three tests. So I look at what's given to me. I'm given two sides and an angle. These angles happen to be the included angle. So I know that angle A is congruent to angle D. So I know the included angles are congruent. Then I have to check my corresponding side lengths. And I'm going to put 2 over 3. I want to know, is that equal to 6 over 9? 6/9 reduces to 2/3, so they are equal. So this would mean that these triangles are similar. And it says, which test did we use? And we used the test that there are two pairs of sides have same ratio and included angles are congruent. Okay, our next example that uses these and puts it into practice is the following. They just again want to know if they're similar or not similar. If you notice here, there's one mark here. That means this side is also the same length, so this is 5. So they gave me all three side lengths. On this one is marked congruent to this one, so these are both 10. To check this, the test would be, since they gave us all three side lengths, are that all three of the corresponding side lengths have the same ratio. So I set up our ratios. So I would put 5 over 10. Is that equal to 5 over 10? And our last ratio would be 3 over 5. These first two reduce to 1/2. 1/2 is equal to 1/2. But those are not equal to 3/5. So these would not be similar. And you could say because not all have the same ratio. Okay, our next example then, it wants to know identify the figures that seem similar and explain why. So we're just looking at this and we want to know which ones look like they're similar. Well, similar, again, means the same shape, but not necessarily the same size. Because if they're both, that's congruent. So if I look here, the same shape and same size, or same shape, A looks like it's the same shape as E. So on this, I would say A looks similar to E, so I'm going to use my symbol, because they are the same shape. The other ones are not the same shapes as each other, so they don't look to be similar. Okay, our last one here then is to see if these figures are similar and find the value of each variable. So we're checking to see if the figures are similar. And oh, it says they are similar. It says right here. They are similar to one another, so find the missing variables. I need to find what's true about D, what does Q equal, and what does X equal. So I'll have 3 answers that I need to find. The angles usually are the easiest because remember those are congruent to one another. So I have a 90-degree angle that matches up with P, so this one is 90 degrees. This one is marked congruent to this one, so that means that this is 130 degrees because D is in the same spot up here as S. I am looking for Q, so I'm looking for the second one, which is the same as B. Neither one of those are given to me, so I need to find it. Well, I know there are 360 degrees in any 4-sided figure. So to find Q, I would take 60 plus 130 plus 90 and get 280 degrees. So currently I know 280 degrees are being used between these 3 angles. So I can subtract that and see what's left for Q to be. If I subtract that, I get 80 degrees. So Q is equal to 80 degrees. Now I need to find the other things that are missing. Well, another one is the angle D, and I already know that because D was equal to S, so D is 130 degrees. So I have 2 of the angles. I now only have to find the missing side length. So I know I'm going to have to use a ratio. Well, 7.5 AD corresponds with SP, which is 12. So my ratio is 7.5 over 12. That has to be the same ratio as the other two of 10 over X. So if I do that, again, you use cross multiplication, so you get 7.5X is equal to 120. Divide by 7.5 on both sides. And we end up with the fact that X is equal to 16 centimeters. We have the 3 variables that were missing. We now know them, so we are done with this problem. You have guided practice, page 139, 6 through 8, and assignment, page 142 through 143, 10 through 20.